October 1929. Wall Street is drowning in red ink. America is starving. The dream is over. The greatest economy the world has ever known has collapsed under its own weight. Banks have shuttered, the dollar is worthless, and millions wake up every morning to the same grim question: where will the next meal come from? But amid the wreckage, a Swedish financier emerges, a man who seems immune to the chaos. His name? Ivar Kreuger. The world knows him as the Match King, a self-made magnate who built an empire from something as simple as wooden sticks. But this wasn't just any business. Kreuger turned matches into a $500 million global monopoly, outshining Ford, outmaneuvering Rockefeller. While American banks crumbled, he did the unthinkable. He lent money to entire nations. Governments lined up for his loans, desperate for lifelines, while Wall Street bowed at his feet. But behind the polished image lay something far darker. Beneath the carefully curated legend was a financial empire woven from deception, a house of cards built on audacity and manipulation. And in 1932, when the walls closed in, Kreuger's story came to a sudden, chilling halt. A single gunshot inside a Paris hotel room silenced him forever. Or at least that's what the world was told. Was it suicide? Or a final act of illusion from a man who thrived on deception? Tonight, we strip away the myth and uncover a scandal so massive it still haunts financial markets today. Buckle up. This ride will scorch everything you thought you knew. Let's turn back the clock to late 1890s Sweden, a land of long winters and hard labor. In a modest home, a lanky boy named Ivar Kreuger was growing up in a family of struggling match manufacturers. But unlike his forefathers who saw matchsticks as just another trade, young Ivar saw them as something far greater, a gold mine. Matches were cheap to produce, yet constantly in demand, a small but essential commodity in every household. Where others saw an ordinary business, Kreuger saw an empire waiting to be built. His journey began in 1908 when he acquired a small factory, but his real breakthrough came in 1917 when he orchestrated the merger of rival companies. In a cutthroat industry, Kreuger didn't just survive, he dominated. Then came the Roaring '20s, and with it, his meteoric rise. By the mid-1920s, Kreuger controlled a staggering 60% of the world's match production. His influence spread like wildfire, and money poured in from eager investors, drawn by his promises of untouchable success. By 1927, he had reached a level of power once reserved for governments. He was no longer just a businessman, he was a banker to entire nations. Kreuger's empire stretched across continents, and Wall Street hailed him as the savior of industry. But beneath the glittering success lay something far more dangerous. While the world saw a financial genius, Kreuger was quietly laying the groundwork for one of history's most audacious cons. Ivar Kreuger wasn't just selling matches, he was controlling who could sell them. Through a brilliant mix of political deals, aggressive buyouts, and sheer financial cunning, he locked down markets across Germany, France, Spain, and beyond. One by one, he convinced governments to grant him exclusive rights to match production, effectively creating a near-total global monopoly. But Kreuger wasn't just playing with fire, he was manufacturing it. With his company, Kreuger Untold, he promised sky-high returns, and investors lined up like moths to a flame. Banks, corporate giants, even widows looking for a safe investment, all poured millions into what they believed was an untouchable empire. Yet beneath the glossy reports and dazzling success, Kreuger's financials were as rigged as a stacked deck. Profits weren't just inflated, they were entirely fabricated. He issued bonds backed by non-existent companies, funneled money through a tangled web of shell corporations, and used fresh investments to pay off earlier backers. A Ponzi scheme so elaborate, it fooled the entire world. And as the 1929 Wall Street crash sent shockwaves through global markets, Kreuger's empire stood tall, for now. But the cracks were beginning to show, and when the fall came, it would be nothing short of catastrophic. October 1929 turned Wall Street into a graveyard. Stocks nosedived, banks collapsed, and fortunes evaporated overnight. Yet amidst the chaos, Ivar Kreuger's empire stood. wobbling but standing. Behind the scenes, though, he was scrambling. Fake Italian bonds, forged signatures, desperate loans. He was no longer just manipulating markets. He was fighting to survive. By 1931, the illusion started to crack. Investors whispered, creditors knocked, and regulators circled like vultures. The once worshipped Match King now looked less like a genius and more like a desperate gambler trying to bluff his way out of ruin. 12 March 1932. Paris, a city of elegance and intrigue, awakens to a chilling report. A gunshot in a luxurious hotel suite, a body sprawled on the floor, and a name that once ruled global finance, now reduced to a cold corpse. Ivar Kreuger, the Match King, is dead. The guy who once juggled millions like it was pocket change is gone, and the world's left staring at a financial black hole. His empire, Swedish Match, Kreuger and Toll, all those tangled companies, was supposed to be worth hundreds of millions. Investors from New York to Stockholm had poured cash into his vision, banks had loaned him stacks, and he'd promised everyone the moon. But when the smoke cleared, there was barely a dime to scrape together. Where the hell did it all go? Let's break it down and chase the theories that erupted when the Match King's game ended. First off, the numbers didn't add up, literally. After Kreuger's death, the accountants swooped in, suits pressed and pencils sharp, ready to tally the empire's worth. They found a disaster. His companies owed $250 million. Think $250 million in 1930s money, an insane fortune. But the assets? A pitiful $50 million, if that. The rest was just gone. One big chunk of the missing cash was tied to how Kreuger ran his show. He'd been pulling a classic move, borrowing fresh money to pay off old debts, keeping the whole circus afloat. When Wall Street crashed in '29, that house of cards started wobbling. Investors demanded their payouts, banks tightened the screws, and Kreuger's cash flow dried up. Theory 1. A ton of those millions got burned up in the crash, funneled into a desperate bid to plug the leaks. But it's not that simple. Kreuger wasn't just bleeding money, he was faking it. Forensic audits after his death uncovered a jaw-dropping scam. He'd forged $142 million in Italian bonds. Yeah, you heard that right. He scribbled fake signatures, invented deals with Mussolini's government, and waved those papers around like they were gold. Investors and banks bought the lie, handing over cash for promises that didn't exist. When he died, those bonds were exposed as worthless, and poof, millions vanished because they were never real. Theory 2. A huge slice of his fortune was pure fiction, a mirage he sold to the world. Then there's the spending angle. Kreuger lived like a rock star, private yachts, sprawling estates, a lifestyle dripping with excess. He'd jet between continents, cutting deals and throwing cash around to keep up appearances. Some say he siphoned off millions to fund that high life, stashing it in personal accounts or blowing it on luxuries. Problem is, when investigators dug into his estate, they didn't find much. A few properties, sure, but no secret vault stuffed with gold. Theory 3, he spent a fat chunk of the money, but it evaporated into the ether. Parties, bribes, and flashy toys don't leave receipts. Now let's get shady. Kreuger was a master at hiding cash. He had secret bank accounts, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, places where money goes to disappear. These weren't just rainy day funds. They were black holes for laundering profits and dodging scrutiny. After his death, rumors swirled that he'd squirreled away $50 million, maybe more, in these offshore stashes. But here's the kicker. No one could crack them. Kreuger took the codes to his grave, and banks like Swiss ones don't spill secrets. Theory 4, millions are still locked away, gathering dust in some numbered account, untouchable without his say-so. And what about those international deals? Kreuger loaned out insane sums, $75 million to Poland, $30 million to Greece, millions more to France and beyond. These were monopoly bribes, cash for exclusive match-selling rights. On paper, he'd get paid back with interest. But in reality, some countries were broke, others dragged their feet, and the profits never rolled in fast enough. When he died, those loans were still out there, half collected or written off. Theory 5. A big pile of his wealth got stranded overseas, tangled in geopolitics and bad bets. Here's the raw truth. When Kreuger's empire imploded, it wasn't one tidy answer. The millions vanished through a mix of fraud, panic, and smokescreens. Fake bonds erased phantom wealth. The crash torched his liquidity. Extravagance ate some, secret accounts hid more, and shaky loans scattered the rest. By the time he pulled that trigger in Paris, the money was a ghost. Part spent, part lost, part never real. Investigators clawed through the wreckage for years, but the trail went cold. Some say $100 million might still be out there, buried in Swiss vaults or forgotten deals, but good luck finding it. The Match King didn't just lose his fortune. He erased it piece by piece until all that was left was a legend and a warning. His death didn't solve the puzzle, it locked it away forever. So next time you hear about a financial wizard with a golden touch, check the fine print. Kreuger's millions are still whispering from the shadows, daring someone to figure out where they went. The legend refuses to die, because when a con is this big, this bold, it doesn't just disappear, it lingers, it haunts. And if you're ready to chase the ghost of the Match King, step in, because his story isn't just history, it's a puzzle still waiting to be solved. Let's set the scene. It's a chilly morning in Paris, Hotel du Rhône. Kreuger's found sprawled on the bed, a 9mm Browning pistol nearby, a single shot fired. The official story? He was crumbling, his empire teetering, debts piling up, the walls closing in. A note in his pocket, cryptic and short, hinted at despair. I have made such a mess of things that I believe this is the right decision for everybody concerned. Autopsy done, body shipped back to Sweden, buried in Stockholm. Done deal, right? Not so fast. The second that news hit, whispers started. Something didn't add up. And those whispers grew into full-blown theories that Kreuger pulled off the greatest con of all, or paid the ultimate price. The wildest theory? He didn't die, he vanished. Picture this. Kreuger, the master of deception, decides he's done playing the game. His empire's a mess, sure, but he's not the type to just check out. Instead, he crafts an exit plan. He buys a body, some poor nobody off the streets of Paris, dresses it in his clothes, stages the scene, fires the shot himself, and slips out the back. A fake beard, a new passport, a ticket to South America or some island no one's heard of. By the time the cops show up, he's sipping rum in Argentina, watching the world mourn a ghost. Crazy? Maybe. But Kreuger was a showman. He'd faked deals, signatures, whole fortunes. Why not fake his own death? Articles from the time fuel this fire. A Swedish paper, Dagens Nyheter, ran a piece days after noting weird details. The hotel staff swore Kreuger seemed calm, even chipper the day before. He'd bought a gun that morning. Odd for a guy about to end it all. No one saw him pull the trigger, and the room was locked from the inside, sure. But Kreuger was clever, could have rigged it. Then there's the flip side. He didn't disappear. He was taken out. This one's darker. Kreuger wasn't just a businessman. He was a player on the global stage. He'd cut deals with governments, rubbed elbows with bankers, and owed millions to Wall Street's big dogs. What if he knew too much, or pissed off the wrong people? The elite theory says he got whacked. By financiers he couldn't pay, by politicians he'd double-crossed, or by some secret cabal pulling strings. A hit dressed up as suicide. The gun? Planted? The note? Forged? The locked room? A setup by pros who knew how to clean up loose ends. Dig into the chatter from 1932, and this gets legs. A French magazine, Le Figaro, hinted at powerful enemies circling Kreuger, unnamed but implied to be American tycoons or European aristocrats. His deals with Poland and France had ruffled feathers. He'd strong-armed monopolies that stepped on toes. Some even tied it to the Soviets. Kreuger had snubbed them on a loan, and Stalin didn't forgive. No hard proof, but the timing's spooky. His death came right as investigations into his books kicked off. Coincidence? Or a convenient way to bury secrets? Conspiracy buffs say the elites needed him gone, either to dodge a financial domino effect or to keep their own dirt hidden. And the evidence, or lack of it, keeps the pot boiling. The autopsy was quick. Too quick, some say, done by a local doc with no deep dive. No ballistics check on the gun, no fingerprints dusted. The note was typed, not handwritten. Odd for a personal farewell. A 1933 expose in The Economist questioned why Kreuger's inner circle didn't push harder for answers. Were they in on it? Paid off? Or just glad he was out of the picture? Witnesses flip-flopped too. One hotel maid swore she saw two men leave Kreuger's room that morning, but she clammed up fast. Bribed? Threatened? Who knows? Theories piled up like wildfire. Some said he'd fled to Switzerland first using his shady bank connections, then bounced to a new life. Others claim the CIA's predecessor, the OSS, had intel he was alive in '33, dodging extradition. The murder camp countered with tales of a hired gun, maybe a disgruntled ex-partner, or a pro from the underworld Kreuger once funded. A 1940s pulp mag even spun a yarn about him being nabbed by a secret society, tortured for his financial playbook, then dumped in an unmarked grave. No evidence, all vibes. But that's the Match King's magic. He left a void so big people filled it with whatever fit. So what's the truth? Did Kreuger outsmart everyone, disappearing into the sunset with a smirk? Or did the elites clip his wings, staging a perfect cover-up? The Paris hotel rooms long since been scrubbed, the guns lost to time, and the man's either 6 feet under or laughing from some beach we'll never find. The Match King's final act isn't a neat ending. It's a question mark that haunts. Maybe he's out there, a ghost in the system, or maybe he's a martyr to the machine. One thing's sure, his death, or whatever it was, cemented his legend. The con didn't just end, it evolved into myth. And that, my friend, is where the trail goes cold, until someone, somewhere, strikes a match and lights it up again. So, if you're into powerful rises, dramatic downfalls, and billion-dollar secrets, go ahead and hit that like button like Kreuger hit those Monopoly deals. Subscribe if you want more wild stories of the world's most controversial power players. Oh, and don't miss our last video. We uncovered explosive secrets about Donald Trump revealed by a spy so deep, even the shadows were sweating. Trust me, it's the kind of intel that'll make your jaw drop harder than Wall Street in '29. Thanks for watching. See you in the next rabbit hole.